Hey everybody, how's it going? Well, I know the government shutdown has ended. I know there were a lot of people that were worried about SNAP benefits were going to be cut off during the shutdown. I know there's a lot of people that need those benefits, and if they really needed them and they lost them, that was going to really be hurting those people. There's a lot of people on SNAP that really they don't need to be on it. They could get by without it. We all know that this has just become a lifestyle for a lot of people. But I wanted to share a little story with you today about my great grandfather and how he kept his kids fed during the Great Depression. Now, my great grandfather, his wife, she was dead already. She had died several years earlier. And some of the older kids, though, they had already left home. My grandma, she was still at home because really, when my grandmother's mother died, my grandmother, she really stepped in and took over kind of being a mother to the younger kids. She started doing the cooking, things like that around the house. And she was still at home. She hadn't married yet. She was still living there with her father, and there was some of the younger kids. I don't know how many were still there. But my great grandfather, he worked in a cotton mill here in North Carolina. And when the Depression hit, the cotton mill shut down. And he lost his job along with a lot of other men. Well, my great grandfather, he didn't go out and depend on the community, everybody else, to just hand him food. He would get up every morning and go out walking around the community. He had to walk because he didn't have a car. He never had one. He would get up and go walking around the community every day, just looking for odd jobs he could do, something in somebody's yard, whatever. He would go out and do these little odd jobs for people just to scrape up a few cents, because during the Depression, you didn't, if you could walk into a store with 50 cents or $1 in your pocket, you could buy some stuff with that. And he would go around and do these little odd jobs for people just to scrape up some change. And he would come in the evening. They said he would come in with a little bag of maybe pinto beans, a little sack of flour or cornmeal. If he had managed to do really good for the day, he might be able to bring in a piece of, sometimes it was fat back meat, sometimes it might be a little bit of bacon or something, just depending on how good of a day he had had. But he'd go out and do these things just to be able to get enough food. It was really just enough food for 1 or 2 more days. That's the best he could do at a time. But that's the way he kept food on the table for a while during the Depression. I don't know how long this went on, but this was the way he kept food on the table. And I know there's a lot of other men back then that did the same thing. Excuse me, there's a lot of allergy stuff still going on here in North Carolina. He was not the only one that did this kind of stuff. There were a lot of men that did things like that to keep food on the table. They didn't depend on everybody else to feed them and their kids. And, we saw these videos during the shutdown, people making videos talking how they were going to go into stores and fill up their shopping cart and walk out the door with it, or some of them even talking all this racial bullshit. They were going to go take food from white people to keep their kids fed, and it was the taxpayers' responsibility to feed their kids. If you've got kids, the only one responsible for feeding your kids are you and the father. That's the only ones responsible. And people used to realize that, and they accepted that. Now, I know there are some people on SNAP that do truly need it, and if you truly need it, that's fine. There's a lot of people out here, though, that's on it that don't need it. And people, just like my great-grandfather, they didn't depend on stuff like that. They didn't depend on everybody else to feed their kids. They would go out and do stuff like he did to keep food on the table. They didn't want a handout. A lot of people nowadays, it's become generational. They want a handout. People back then, they didn't want it. they'd find a way to keep food on the table. Some of you people on it today, you need to look at yourself, because there's a lot of you on it. You don't need it. You need to look at the way people used to be. They took responsibility and they fed their own kids. Thanks for watching.